Hello everyone and welcome to Best of the Month, the show where a range of creators get together to tell you what they've enjoyed most. It doesn't need to be a brand new board game, maybe it's just new to them, or it's been on their shelf for a while and they've finally got it back to the table and really enjoyed it. Now, let's find out what people have been picking.
Hi, I'm Josh from the hobbyist YouTube channel joshyaks, and my game of the month for July was Mr. Jack. I was so excited to get back to this game because it was one of my favorite games of all time, even though I actively avoided it back in 2006 when it was first released because of the Jack the Ripper theme. However, when I actually ended up winning a copy of the game from a friendly local gaming store, I fell in love with this game at first play. It introduced me to what I now know is Bruno Catala's signature style of game, which are these relatively easy to learn, quick to play, yet highly tactical, two-player asymmetrical games. And this, for me, is the pinnacle of the bunch. If it does have any flaws, it is that one, the game is weighted a bit in favor of the inspector player. So over time, it's been shown that the inspector player wins about 60% of the games, the Jack player wins about 40% of the games. However, that's not too bad. If you're playing with a less experienced player, you can just have them play the inspector, and the more experienced player can play as the Jack player. The other minor issue is that the setup is static, so that each game can kind of feel a little bit similar the more you play. Having said that, though, the base Mr. Jack game is probably one of my most played games of all time. They used to have a dedicated website to playing online Mr. Jack, and I was actually one of the higher ranked Mr. Jack players in the world at the time. And although that website's now defunct, you can play it on Board Game Arena with a premium subscription, which is actually how I managed to get the game played in the month of July. However, that whole static setup issue was thrown right out the window when the Mr. Jack extension was released and introduced a whole bunch of new characters with new special abilities that could be substituted in and out with some of the old characters, as well as a player-controlled game setup so that each game would be set up differently, and the game had now pretty much infinite replayability. But then along came Mr. Jack Pocket, this tiny pocket-sized version that kept all this same general feeling of Mr. Jack, but in a very pocket-sized edition that could be taken to a cafe or pub or pretty much anywhere you wanted to play. And yeah, despite the small size, every decision in this game is still so brain-burning. However, the best was yet to come when Mr. Jack in New York was released, and now the game was really blown wide open, where the actual map was kind of built out as the game progressed, so that by the end of the game you would have a different map than probably any other map that has been played before. So now the replayability of the game again was nearly infinite. It really upped the whole strategic value of the game and made decisions even more difficult, as if they weren't hard enough already. And now I say that Mr. Jack in New York is easily in my top 5 games of all time after all these hundreds of games I've played over the past 20 years or so. So you can see now why I was so excited to get back to Mr. Jack in the month of July, and I hope I get a chance to continue to play it on Board Game Arena, if not in person. Cheers.
Hey everybody, and welcome to my Best of the Month pick for the month of March. Oh, it's July already? Okay, so end of July. I guess we've missed a few of these. Anyway, so my Best of the Month pick for the month of July is going to be Make the Difference, which is an Oink game that comes in a little bit bigger box here than they normally come in. But the idea of the game is you are making the difference, and then the other players have to spot the difference. And I'll show you what I mean. First, what you do is you pick one of these pads of these pictures. They're a little like cartoony, and you know, like have a lot of little lines on them. And then what you do is everyone makes 5 differences using one of these markers on the paper. Then everyone gets to try to spot the difference between yours. There is a sand timer. So during the first phase, if people spot the differences, everyone is doing this all at once. All the other players, that is. So you spot the difference, and in the first round, they get points. Then you flip the timer, and then they get points, and then you get points because it took them longer to find it. And then at the end, if there are still differences, you use this little this little thing right here, and you get bonus points based on how big the lines were that you made. So if you make something really large, you'll get a bunch of bonus points. This game is super fun. It's fun trying to trick everyone. Sometimes when you can draw a relatively big line to make it really obvious and no one spots it, or you can make little tiny dots and people find it right away. This game is a blast. One negative is it comes with this little, this not quite clear sheet that you put over it to kind of like stop the glare from the marker or just make the marker less obvious. But I don't know if you can see it here, but it came a little warped. So what I did is I just took some tracing paper, some light tracing paper, and cut that into squares, and that works perfectly. So like you can't like notice the marks on their own. Yeah, so we had a blast with this game, and I'm going to go ahead and show you some of our games, and if you want to pause it and try to find the differences, remember there's 5 on each of these. So good luck, and have a happy month. Maybe we'll see you next time.
Hey buddies, welcome to Amass Games. My name is Simon and doing best of the month for the month of July 2023. Now this is another heavy game. Why is it heavy and why am I playing it now? The weather hasn't been particularly good recently and you might have noticed some other heavy games being played. Well, that's where the next lot comes in, as it's Terracotta Army. This is a 2 to 4 player game set in the Chinese Empire where they're looking to build out the mausoleum. Quite similar to Teotihuacan, the second in the T-series. This is the 5th, we have the 3rd and the 4th over here, and actually played the 6th or even the 7th one over only 2 days ago, in fact. As also as this, I played another T game in that kind of series as well. So starting off with Tolkien, we're way up to speed now. This is a game that takes 90 to 120 minutes. You play it, like I said, a 2, 3 or 4. It doesn't really recommend any kind of player count over any other. So for me, I do recommend all the player counts. And it does go smooth. It's wonderful miniatures, wonderful figurines. I'm playing it again next month, in fact. Highly enjoyable, and it's a game involving resources. It's about air control. It's quite an abstract theme, and it's got a fantastic box, as you can probably tell there as well. So this is a particular game whereby various different rounds, as a 5-round game, you are looking to go out there and you will be chucking out various different resources on this wheel. Maybe you're going to get various other benefits, such as different clay. Clay dries. You might want to use a vase to wet your clay again, otherwise you won't be able to use it. You'll get out warriors, you'll get out statues, and you're looking to get out specialists, and what they can do is allow you to do better things, more points, maybe break ties. You can also spread yourself over the board better with horses. Other things you can do is maybe benefit from musicians, as well as kneeling archers. You've also got those warriors I mentioned. Well, you can have weapons that you can use them as well, but you need to activate those weapons. Aside from that, you've also got to deal with the various other factors, such as where your opponents are going. Maybe you want to change the turn order and go earlier. Maybe you want to upgrade your various craftspeople, your craftsmen, up to be artisans, which means you're more able to place out your characters, these craftspeople, because then obviously you're going to have fewer options as well. So lots to talk about. I really am tripping over my words because there's quite a lot of mouthful of large words to say, but it has been very engaging and it's quite simple to teach. There is no player aid, so there is one you can get online, which I do recommend. There's quite a few, but it's a really nice one with only one typo that I've clarified with them as well. This is an 8 out of 10 rating for me. This is a game that I would recommend so highly, especially if you do like your mid to heavy game. In particular, I will say that all of mid-heavy games I've always pretty much given around a 7.5 at least rating. And that's just because I think that you have a lot of stuff going on with them, which is very effective. Having said that, they generally don't hit a 9 out of 10 for me because you do lose something and actually keep playing these games. What I mean by that is even if you play a game once, it is quite heads down kind of a game. It is a game whereby you're not necessarily talking much. Obviously, it's a Euro as well. And when you are playing out stuff, you have to be aware of the fact that, crucially, those systems that you're playing in, you know, your mind needs to be in a certain space, and it won't have the same replayability as certain, say, party games, which is one of the highest rating games that I tend to play as well. So the trouble with party games, though, just on a side note, is the fact you do get a judge theory element, and that's something which I really bring down that category. But for now, hope you found it of interest. Speak to you again next month. But for now, back to the table.
Good toast.
Hi, Ollie. I want to tell you about my game of the month. It's not Wingspan. It's not even Wingspan Asia. It's this one, Wingspan Oceania. I had the pleasure of playing Wingspan with this expansion at a local gaming con. And boy, did it make a difference. We're adding it into Wingspan Asia. Just the nectar tiles add so much to this game. Not only are they a wild resource, but instead of handing them back to the supply, you place them on your player board and you get to decide. You look at your cards. Do I want to place them in the wetlands or do I want to put them in the grasslands? It's going to depend. Maybe you're going to play a different bird card because that's the territory you have to play them in. A lot of decisions. It tweaks the game just enough to make it really interesting. That's my game of the month. You're back.
Hey, I'm back. Woo! Hey, everybody. I take it I got here just in time for the board game of the month. Is that right?
You're right.
Perfect. Well, hey, you want some toast? All right, I'll have it later. You want to know what my game of the month is, everybody? Here it is. You ready? Earth. This game is my game of the month because I'm back. So when we first got this game, we didn't really see the attraction that everybody had of it. We played it on the starter mode, right?
Yes.
And there was a lot to be desired. The more we played it, the better it got. So what's cool about Earth, if you haven't played it yet, is there's simultaneous player action. So essentially, there is really no downtime when you are playing a game. So if it was my turn, I would pick an action, and then there's like a top and a bottom action. So if I do a red action, then you, as the second player, would get to do the second player, basically, version of the red action. And the goal of the game is you got a 4x4 tableau that you're building in front of you, and you are trying to build a self-sustaining ecosystem and gain some points. And that's the components are really charming. I think it looks good on the table. It's surprising because it's very like basic.
But the wood components to create the trees really make it kind of cute.
Yeah. So once you start to get your trees built and all that, it really starts to look good on the table. But that is my game of the month. So it's good to be back. Boy, do I have some stories to tell you.
I can imagine.
God, I love this toast. You sure you don't want any?
I'm not a fan of toasty.
No, but I'm talking about toast, not toasty.
He's one of me, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
So my best of the month is the start of, at the moment, a trilogy, but I think it's going to be 4, 5, 6. I think it's kind of like an endless. They can just keep printing these if they remain good, because we've finally gone back and finished off Micro Macro Crime City, the original. We had a couple of cases left, just of the original ones that we'd, for whatever reason, not finished, and I'd also got some promos, 2 little extra missions that you can just go back and play with that same awesome map that fits across your entire table. So what is it if you haven't played it? It is a game some would say is almost only an experience. You've got this massive map in front of you, but it's not just a snapshot in time, it's a snapshot in times. And what I mean by that is you might see this person over here, stood along here, then you can look a little bit further on the map. Oh, there's the same person again. He's walked from there to there. Oh, he's gone and bought an ice cream. Oh, he's walked through the marketplace. And eventually, well, unfortunately, you'll probably find that he's been killed off somewhere or something. Some crime in Crime City has happened. I know. Surprise, the name was there all along. Now, yes, there's not much game mechanics there, but it's really fun sort of seeing these stories, and sometimes you can be like, oh, I've been seeing that person dotted around the map and I've been wondering why they're there from previous sort of their little stories. You've just sort of been following this person and seen this other person spotted around. And then later on, one of the later cases, they pop up again and you're like, oh, yes, I've seen that person. They were stood on a rooftop, but there's so many rooftops, which one? And it's just fun trying to work out where they've been, follow them around this map. And the later ones, the latter few, where they're sort of 5 out of 5 stars or difficulty, whatever it is, you do have to use a little bit of logic to them. Like, oh, they're thinking about this, they've been to these stores, where might they go next after that? Because some of them, it's like, oh, they've got in and sort of basically an unmarked car, you won't be able to track them, but what were they doing previously? And you're like, what? I didn't even think about that. So you follow them back and in bed they were thinking about, say, ice cream, and then you look at the ice cream shop and there they are, and you can follow them again. It's great, and I'm really excited to go and dive into the rest of the second box and even the third one, and it sounds like the fourth box is coming hopefully later this year. So we've got loads of them to go and really fun enjoying them. And the fact that each of them is on their own unique map, I'm super excited to play more. But we have finished off and completed Micro Macro Crime City, and I could highly recommend it. Now let's pass over to some more creators, and while you're watching all of these, make sure you are checking out their channels. The links will be in the description box below.
Hi, it's Barb, MeeplePhD, and my favorite play for July 2023 is The Loop. The Loop is a cooperative game where players are agents of time, running around trying to defeat Dr. Foe by destroying his duplicates and keeping the timeline under control. In this game, the bad things that happen at the beginning of each round are you add more duplicates to the board, and then the other thing you're doing is pulling a card from Dr. Foe's deck, which gives you one of the eras of time. So there are 7 different eras of time around the board in a loop. And you will point his machine in that direction, and you will drop some time rifts, these red cubes, into the machine to see where they land. If you ever get 4 or more time rifts in one era, you will cause a vortex in that era. And if you do it a second time in the same era, you lose the game. So you want to keep these time rifts under control as much as possible. And you add more time rifts, the more duplicates that are in Dr. Foe's era that round. So you also want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on those duplicates. So then for the player actions, they use cards that are in their hand. And they do things like let you move these duplicates around. If you bring a duplicate to the era where it originated, it will disappear off the board. You'll destroy it, so that's great. You can also move around the board. You can destroy those rifts. You might be able to drop some energy cubes around. Those help people move around the board. They can also help you do what's called a loop. So your cards have this little symbol in the upper corner of it, and if you have an energy that you can spend in your era, you can reuse all of the cards that have the same symbol. And so you're also trying to build your deck so that you have as many of the same symbol as possible, so that when you do that loop, you can reuse more than one card, because it costs the same amount no matter how many cards you are looping. And you can loop more than once, but it gets more expensive with each time that you do it. The things that you're trying to do, besides getting rid of those duplicates and getting rid of those time rifts, are these goals that are defined around the board, and there will be 7 of them. You have to complete 4 of them in order to win the game. They're all different, and you'll get a slightly different set each time that you're playing the game. So we have really enjoyed this game. The way that you work together, the way that you get those turns where you can just loop everything and clear off the board a whole bunch, and those other turns where things are kind of turning bad and not looking great, and you're still just trying to hold on and do everything that you can. So anyway, we had a great time with this one. That's the loop, my pick for this month. I hope to see you next month. Have a great month gaming. In the meantime, you can look me up on YouTube as MeeplePhD, where I connect board games and astronomy. And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter.
Hi, I'm Libby and this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples, and it's come to the end of yet another month. So we're going to talk, as we always do, about what our favourite games were last month.
Now, a game I first saw at the UK Games Expo, and this is by Cosmos, this company you work for. It's called My Gold Mine, or as my daughter calls it, My Gold Mine. And this is a really fun, very silly, very quick to play, kind of push your luck game. My daughter's described it as a mixture of deep sea adventure and Clank, and I think that's actually a really good description. Now, in this game, you take it, open the box, take cards out, and you're ready to play. It's one of these kind of, I think they're called the Open and Play series. Mm-hmm. And that means you can play it super quickly and get right into the action. And what action it is. So you're a collection of dwarfs, you want gold.
Of course you do.
Because they're dwarfs. And the best place to get gold, as we all know, is obviously in Cavern with a Dragon.
Yes.
Now, you've got a simple decision in this game. Do you go forwards or do you go back? Do you collect gold or do you run away? By drawing the cards to collect the gold, you can see the card underneath, and therefore that actions. And that could be collecting gold and moving deeper into the cavern. Or it could be you're collecting gold and moving slightly further away. Or it could be you pick up that card and you reveal a dragon. And that means the dragon progresses into the cavern towards your dwarves.
Closer to torching you down.
Once you've taken that card, if there's another dragon card underneath, he moves even further. And then you remove that card, and then there could be another dragon card underneath, and he'll move even further. It's kind of a push of luck where your actions trigger an event underneath, but you're not directly doing that. It's not a conscious decision to make the dragon advance and kill everyone. It's often a byproduct of you making a decision. And I think that makes it really great for families, because it's a case of, well, I didn't know the dragon was going to suddenly move 5 spaces and eat everyone. Even escaping, you've got choices there, because when you choose the escape card, you've often got 2 options on the card, one of which is to move towards a safe haven, the exit. One of which is to swap your position with someone else. Could be everyone moves.
Yeah.
Could be help yourself to 3 more gold. You're not trying to escape at all. You're just going to help yourself to 3 gold. And oh, that's tempting.
And that's always a tricky decision, because when you're picking up an exit card, it's because you think that you need to leave the mine. So to have that kind of, how greedy should I be? I am a dwarf who really likes gold. So should I, go by character, or should I play on the air of safety?
It's telling every time that one card, there's only one of these in the whole deck, comes up, everyone's like, I need to get out that part, I'll just take the gold. What's fantastic is when they do that, you take the gold, and then on a subsequent turn, someone reveals that dragon card, and that dragon comes bounding through and burning it while alive. You go, well, that's because you were greedy. And this is such a lovely production. There's some gold little tokens in here, simple to play, simple to set up, great family game, and highly recommend it. It's a cheap game as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to show you guys the rest of the series. There's 4 open and play games. Monster Trials is the most recent to have just hit shelves. So, yeah, it's a really lovely little series and great for travel.
Yeah.
My choice this week is a much larger game, and very unsurprising, The Great Wall. I think those that have watched our channel have known that I've been excited for this one to arrive for a long time. It's a game that I've mentioned before on varying times, because I managed to play different copies, but this is just the first time I've managed to play my copy. And we have the Sundrop version, and those miniatures look beautiful. We managed to play a 3-player game this month to sort of crack everything out, get everything going. And it's so fun how each game that we've played, we've played with the normal miniatures, with my sun-drop ones, with the actual meeple ones. So, I must have played the game probably 6-7 times maybe now. Every single time with different sort of characters, different bonuses, different ways that the barbarians are coming towards different areas of the wall. It's really changed the game in terms of how you're trying to play, whether you're trying to get your cavalry out, whether you're really focusing on archers or not, whether you're sort of changing your advisors and getting new ones of those to come through, and really how you play the game. It's different time to time, which I really do appreciate. And this is without even delving into any of the expansions that have come with it. So I'm really excited to get the black powder out and maybe the ancient beasts and some of those sort of bits and pieces as well. But I mean, this was an amazing game this month. And even though it seems quite kind of predictable of a choice, I think it was sort of inevitable because it has become one of my favorite games. So how would it not be my game of the month? I think I just really find the Awakened Realms game such a good production. And I really appreciate that this one has a bit more of a sort of Euro style element to it, more than some of the others like Nemesis and things like that. You do have that sort of worker placement element to it. And they really put a spin on that, making it so the spaces have to fill before you're actually going to gain the resources. You can't just place there and go, oh, yes, I'll take 2 of this, thank you very much. You have to wait until all those spots are full before you're going to get that resource. So on each person's turn, you're kind of thinking, right, well, should I put someone there, or am I going to lose someone for ages? And it's not going to be until the following rounds that I'm going to actually get those resources, which I really need now. Or should I try and fill them up and encourage someone else to join in on that, so we can try and get those resources? And there's lots of little touches. For example, being able to put someone in to then get the extra benefits as well. That's really great. I really enjoy that. And having that mix between sort of going out and fighting and doing the sort of resource element of things. What other element I enjoy is that you get the follow action. So everyone's pulling a card that they're going to take the action from that round. And the majority of those cards have on them sort of a big bonus that the person playing that card's going to get. You can do this, this, and this. And then everyone else is probably going to get to place 2 people or something of that ilk. So you're, even on someone else's turn, still thinking about, right, where can I maximize that? And then can I get those people back? So by the time I played my card, I can maximize its use, because some of them maybe say, place all your people out. If you've got them all out previously from having placed them on other people's turns, you're kind of thinking, well, what a waste. So you need to kind of manage when they're getting placed and when you're going to get them back, which is really interesting.
Such a fantastic game. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to delving into those expansions. But as Libby said at the beginning, we are BoxedMeeples, and if you're interested in finding more of our content, we are on YouTube, so just search for BoxedMeeples, you'll find our videos. Obviously, we're on all the social medias, so Threads, whatever we are now calling Twitter, and of course, Instagram.
Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is Tell Me No July's herself,
Sarah.
And we are Rolling with Two. And today we're going to be looking at our favorite games that we played in July. Sarah, what did you play?
Well, I played a really fun game on Board Game Arena. So I don't have a box to show you because we don't actually own this game. But my favorite game was Challengers. It is interesting because the theme is capture the flag with a whole bunch of crazy different like people in costumes, and it's crazy. But the mechanisms are really interesting. It's a very lightweight game. The mechanisms are slight deck building with war. Yeah.
You mean the very strategic game of war?
Very strategic game of war. But this is supposed to be a light, casual game. But it's really interesting. You can play 2 to 8.
And it has to be even pairs, right?
No, not necessarily. You can play odd because you'll play against a bot. What he's referring to is whatever player count you're playing at, everybody gets a card for that player count. And it is going to show which mats you sit at. If you had the physical version, you would lay out mats according to the player count, and they'd be different colors, and they're different, like, I think seasons or something. But the card will show you, like, you need to be at the green mat on the dark side, and then one of the other players has the opposite. Well, they're going to sit across from you. So you're going to split up so that everybody's playing in a match. And you're going to play 7 rounds. But the thing is, you're getting up and moving around. Well, if you have the physical version.
And if you don't have even players.
There is a bot, and you can just leave their deck alone, or there is some ways to make it a little tougher as the rounds go on. Because here's the interesting thing. Everybody starts with a basic deck, like you do in deck builders, but you immediately get to take 2 new cards. And which decks you get to pull from, there's an A, B, and C, and they get better as, you know, you get to C deck. You get a random choice, so 5 cards are going to flip up, and you can choose 0, 1, or 2 of those 5. And the reason you could choose 0 is you could flush them and draw 5 new, but then you have to take your 2 cards from that new 5. So you do get some choices. And there's going to be like a mashup of different themes, so you could have space and
city, movie theater.
There's all sorts of crazy creatures. And they all have a power, and then some of them have an ability. So you take whichever 2 you're going to, and then you have the opportunity to thin your deck, which I love in deck building, being able to get rid of bad cards. And you get to do this.
And it's not just 1 or 2. It's like you can get rid of as many as you want.
So here's the tricky part, and this is why I find it engaging. You want to get rid of cards, but not too many. Because here's the thing. You still have to win the war. So you start the match. You flip up a card if you're the first player. Whatever card you first flip up, you just capture the flag. Then your opponent has to equal or exceed your card. And if they can't with 1 card, then they have to draw another until their total matches or exceeds. But when that happens, their little stack gets condensed to just the top card. So let's say you have a 3. Your opponent draws a 2. Well, then they draw a 1. Well, now they have 3. They beat you. But now their top card is a 1 with the flag. So then you only have to beat a 1. So you go back and forth until someone runs out of cards in their deck, or you have a bench of 5 spots. When you cannot put cards from your losing stack onto the bench, you also lose.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get rid of too many cards, but you don't want to keep too many crappy cards. It's just interesting.
Or if you do want crappy cards, you want the same type.
Yes.
Because when it comes to the bench, they can actually stack and only take up 1 slot instead of having to take up multiple slots.
Right, but the cards that you're gaining are random, so you may not be able to get 2 of the same. Or you can get some from the same theme that work together. So there's just a lot of interesting things. So you are trying to win each match. But the first few matches, the points you get, the trophy, it's random, but they're fewer points. And then as you go on, the matches are worth more and more points. So at the end of 7 matches, the top 2 people in a 3 or more player game, the top 2 people then match up with each other, and whoever wins that is the ultimate winner of the game. In a 2-player game, you just compare scores at the end of 7 rounds, and whoever has the higher score wins.
Yeah, because you're only playing the other person the whole time anyway.
So it's really fast, it's really fun, it's not too thinky, but you've got choices, and you've got meaningful choices, which is what I always appreciate. So, yep. I probably didn't need to teach you how to play the game, but it's just so much fun. I wanted to. So on Board Game Arena, it is a premium game, but only 1 person at the table needs to start it, and then anyone else who with a free account can join without being premium. Anna Challengers 2 is coming out later this year at Essen, so that is going to offer more variety of cards.
Yeah, and Challengers 2 can be played as a standalone, just like Challengers 1, or it can be mix and match from the descriptions where you've been seeing.
And that means you can play a mega tournament up to 16 people.
Crazy.
So what was your favorite game for July?
So my favorite game for July was Old West Impresario.
Yes.
Now this is one of the last games put out by Tasty Minstrel Games, which means that it's going to be hard to find.
Yeah.
After a while. It is the spiritual successor to Pioneer Days. You can tell that because a lot of the characters that appeared in Pioneer Days now show up in this game. But it is a completely different game. In the previous one, it's kind of like Oregon Trail trying to survive.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a survival game. This one is completely a town builder. So the way the game works is dice will get rolled out and they'll be placed on 1 through 6 because it's 6-sided dice. And there's going to be tiles under each number. When it's your turn, you'll take one of those dice and do one of 3 things. You will either take one of those tiles and add it to your town respectively according to its rules, or you will take one of those tiles, toss it in the box and gain 3 money and refill that spot, or take that number and then activate your town based on that number. So the first tile you start with is a town hall. It will activate on every number, and it will either gain you 1 coin or help you build a building with you paying 1 coin. Every other tile will typically either be not activated at all, so like the Native American lands or the civic buildings, there's no activation to them, or it will actually specifically call out a number. Right. So for example, if I took a 3, I will look to see all the different 3s that might be in my town, and then I'll choose which order to operate them. So very simple to learn and how to play, because that is essentially the whole gist of what you're doing in the game. Everything else around it has to do with how scoring works. So there's going to be wanted posters that if you achieve certain things in the game, you can take one of those wanted posters to score those points. You'll also have a character card. Now, you can choose the basic version where everybody has the same ability, or you choose the advanced version where everybody has an asymmetric power. Maybe this person starts with more money and more buildings partially built, or this other person does something when this certain situation occurs. So that's also neat. Also, cards or tiles that are built out in your town will have like 1 of 3 symbols: a cotton, a railroad, and oil.
And they each score in a different way.
Right. And so then you'll have that to also consider when you're placing, where you're placing. And it's also important that when you place a tile, it has to go next to something that's already been built. So if you have something that's unbuilt, you can't build anything around it.
And did you say the tiles then also score based on what's around them?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Because that's the final thing, is then you'll look at each individual tile, and depending on what it is, it will have a different scoring metric. And then you total all that up, and after someone has built 15 tiles, that does include your town hall, I think there's also a couple of other, if certain piles run out.
Right, if you run out of the population, which is your victory point tokens, but we found in our games, people are going to get to 15 tiles way before running out of that pile.
Yes. So it ultimately comes down to, it's a light mid-weight game that's easy to get on and off the table.
Yeah.
Easy to teach, easy to play, easy to remember how to play.
Yep. And it's one of your favorite themes, Old West.
Yes.
So that's also really
Doesn't
fun.
have any shooty out sort of.
Yeah, which is why I like it.
Which is, and if I can get her to play something, that's even better than a game that I can't get her to play.
I just don't like Old West because most of them are about shooting each other up. And I'm a Care Bear.
There you go.
There we go indeed.
So if you find this interesting, you can find a more detailed review as well as accessibility and how it plays for 2 players for Old West Impresario. We can't do it for challengers since we don't have a physical copy of the game.
Right, and we don't currently review Board Game Arena games.
Yes.
But you can check out all our other reviews at RollingWithTwo.
On YouTube.
And, well, that about wraps us up. Some very cool picks. There's some games which have accidentally made it onto my shopping list, or at least I want to be like checking them out at Spiel later on this year, because I think they'll be their sort of thing. If you're interested in Essen Spiel, my coverage will be starting probably later this week, going through what's going to be there, because I need to do it for myself, so I need to know what's going to be good. And as always, check out all of the creators involved in today's show. They are absolutely awesome for taking part of this, and it's all about sharing the love for games, and the love for all of the creators here. So please check out the links in the description box below to their channels, etc., so you can go and check them out. And until next time, have a great month gaming.